In this video, I'm going to break down Neville Goddard techniques for money. Do these 3 simple steps and you can create all the money you will ever need. Don't believe me? I share some amazing proof in this video that shows what's possible for you. So in order to create all the money you'll ever need, according to Neville Goddard, it starts with this teaching from him, and I quote here, "There is nothing God cannot do. Do not think that one who is fabulously rich has an influx of spirit which differs from yours. He's imagining wealth, either wittingly or unwittingly, but you can do it knowingly." So what's he saying here? He's saying do not underestimate the power of your unconscious mind, and do not underestimate the power of God. If somebody else has the success you want, you can have it in your own way too. And what I love about Neville, especially when it comes to money techniques, is he doesn't just tell you in theory. So check out this epic story. So Neville's writing in his book, and he's talking about a time he was giving a speech. So here he is giving the speech in front of the audience. It's on money. While he's talking, he tells this story. This guy wanted to attract $250,000 into his life, and he needed it for his business. And this was during the terrible economic downturns in the 40s and 50s. This guy wants to get money, but every day the stock market's dropping, everyone's freaking out. Maybe it reminds you a little bit of right now. And so this guy needs $250,000 for a manufacturing business. So Neville tells him to start imagining it. And the guy comes back later and he says, "I am not doing a good job. This is not working out. I don't know what to do. I feel like I've got so much bad news happening that I can't mentally detach myself from it." So Neville tells this guy that he's going to change the mental rehearsal of the conversation. So instead of this guy wanting $250,000, Neville and this guy imagine he already has it. So they do an exercise where the guy calls Neville and tells him he got the $250,000 instead of telling him that he wants it. And after they hang up, what Neville and the individual do is neither of them move on to their next task in the day, even though they've hung up the phone. They still pretend they're on it until he feels the feeling of having that $250,000. And then Neville leaves the conversation acting as if the guy just called him and told him that he got the $250,000. So after that, some crazy stuff starts to happen. And this guy writes Neville later to tell him that out of the blue, after he had started to mentally rehearse in his mind that he already had the $250,000, that he had had a successful phone call and somebody wanted to give him the money, he randomly got a phone call from an investment broker that had heard about the new business that he wanted to start, had researched it extensively, and was calling to ask if he had already gotten the money that he needed, and if not, if this individual could invest the $250,000 into his business. And just like that, boom, $250,000. But it doesn't stop there. After he gets the $250,000, he starts to get momentum. And then he has friends call that end up investing another $100,000 into shares of the company, just like that $350,000. So let's repeat that Neville Goddard teaching. There is nothing God cannot do. Do not think that one who is fabulously rich has an influx of spirit which differs from yours. He is imagining wealth, either wittingly or unwittingly, but you can do it knowingly. Now, if you're still with me and you are ready to start wittingly, consciously imagining wealth in your life, I want you to pick a scenario just like that individual where he reframed that phone call that Neville writes about, and he started imagining that on the calls he was being given the money. And I want you to pick one of those things and give me a comment down below that says, "I call money into my life." For some people, it's a little bit hard to start to do that because of the imagination. And that's exactly what happened to the guy. He called Neville struggling with it. And if that's you, don't get mad, don't worry, don't get frustrated. It just takes one little shift and then boom, this guy brings 350 grand in. If you want help with that, I have a free success hypnosis. It's right there down below, jakeshypnosis.com. It's pinned to the comments and in the description. It's my free financial success hypnosis that I use to start to train my mind to live from it. Neville talks about you can live towards what you want. I really am hoping this money comes. We're living from it like you already have it. And if you use my free success hypnosis, it'll start to reprogram your thoughts around that. Okay, big idea number 2 to create all the money you ever want is, and I quote from Neville here, to be conscious of being poor while praying for riches is to be rewarded with that which you are conscious of being, namely poverty. Prayers to be successful must be claimed and appropriated. Assume the positive consciousness of the thing desired. That one's so good and so simple, but so hard to understand. He says to be conscious of being poor while praying for riches is to be rewarded for that which you are conscious of being, namely poverty. To be successful in your prayers, you have to claim and appropriate it. So think about money as 2 things. It's the presence of money and the absence of money. Neville says, quote, if you judge after appearances, you will continue to be enslaved by the evidence of your senses. And so to move this out of the abstract, Neville can sometimes be such an incredible metaphysical teacher that sometimes it might be a little hard to just kind of make sense of it. So when I applied this into my life, the reason this is so important to me is because when I wanted my YouTube channel to blow up, I did visualization, I did law of attraction, I read Neville Goddard, and I worked hard. I didn't just like sit on the couch and burn incense, I worked really hard. But I was always thinking about the lack of money even though I wanted it. I was thinking about the lack of my YouTube channel blowing up even though I wanted my YouTube channel to blow up. And this is what habitually happens. It might be happening to you because everything is 2 things, what you want and the absence of what you want. That you can be wanting money but be focused on your lack of success and then moving towards it. I hope it happens. I hope it happens. Come on, why isn't it happening yet? Instead of moving from it. And so what I did is start to create what I call the record player technique based off of Neville. He calls it the congratulations technique, where you pick an event that would occur if you got the money that you wanted. And think about someone congratulating you or having a huge celebration. And so for me on YouTube, it's refreshing the browser. Holy crap, my channel went viral, jumping up and down. My wife's yelling, yay, yay, yay. For you, it might be selling your house and shaking hands with the real estate agent and you're jumping up and down. It might be your boss pulling you in and you getting an epic raise. It might be that you were just able to pay off your house in full and you're celebrating with your friends and family because you don't have a mortgage debt anymore. It's a specific scenario that moves you into what you want, so you're living from it as opposed to hoping you arrive towards it. And number 3 is a powerful one. Neville says, and so, you need money? No, you don't. I share with you what I've discovered. All you need is to assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. That's all you need to do. Assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Though reason denies it, though your senses deny it, don't waver in that assumption. You assume it. Persist in the assumption, and that assumption will harden into reality if you call reality these concrete things in the world. But really, these are shadows. So what's he saying? That your bank account is just a shadow. That's not the concrete thing. Where your attention goes creates a feeling, and often that's one of disempowerment, which creates lack. But if your awareness, instead of going to the shadows, instead of going to the limits of your bank account, your attention starts to go to your inner world, it creates a new feeling. One of confidence, one of empowerment, one of excitement. And this shift is what mirrors in your outside world. As you attract new business partnerships, you attract bigger checks, you attract more opportunity, because this shift comes from inside, not outside. And the shift basically has to do with your self-image. Neville says, and I quote, "Change your conception of yourself and you will automatically change the world in which you live. Do not try to change people. They're only messengers telling you who you are. Revalue yourself and they will confirm the change." Revalue yourself. That's what he said. So what I invite you to do is pull out a pen and pad and discover your current conception of yourself. What do you believe about yourself? What memories, what traumas, what things were you told when you were growing up that have built the basis of your self-identity that you think is concrete? And remember, Neville just called them the shadows. And if you want an easy way to do this, to find your financial self-image, think about it like this. What early memories do you have about yourself, your capabilities, and money that ultimately created assumptions or beliefs that you hold? For example, I was not the brightest kid in school. I didn't do very well. And I thought I was stupid. I was prescribed and diagnosed with ADD. I barely passed my classes. When I would study, I'd get really bad anxiety. And even if I knew the answers, I would still mess them up. And so from a young age, I had many memories of all this trauma and anxiety and feeling stupid. And so into my adult years, I developed a self-conception that I had a bad memory, I was stupid, I had ADD, and then this became an issue even though it became subconscious. I didn't think about it much because then I was trying to build a career as an author. And all these old crappy belief systems came up. Well, you can't focus long enough to write. You're not smart enough to be an author. You're too stupid to be an author. And all of these silly ideas started popping up. But by chasing what I wanted, by pursuing my goals, they popped up like a whack-a-mole and I could see what they are. Now, ask yourself, what are those self-concepts? And then reverse them in your life and use Neville's revision technique to reimagine them. Now, I've talked about the revision technique in another video, but basically it's using your imagination to reimagine the past. So instead of imagining myself failing all these tests and being described and prescribed and told that I had ADD and ADHD and I was stupid, I started imagining that I was successful. I started imagining I was this huge author. I imagined that I did great in school. So you can do the same exact thing to recreate your image of yourself financially. Like Neville Goddard said, "There is nothing God cannot do. Do not think that one who is fabulously rich has an influx of spirit which differs from yours. He is imagining wealth, either wittingly or unwittingly, but you can do it knowingly." So I invite you to not underestimate the power of God. I invite you to not underestimate the power of your mind once you get it focused on prosperity. Do a simple challenge to yourself for the rest of today to think only of prosperity. If you're in debt, don't think about debt. Don't think about the bills you have to pay. Think of prosperity. Don't look at in your mind the image of your sorry bank account and all the debts. Focus only on prosperity. See the house, see the check, see the bank account growing and growing and growing like a stopwatch. And the stopwatch or the timer just keeps going further and further and further and further. Same thing with the numbers in your head financially. Further and further and further and further. Do not underestimate God. So if you enjoyed today's video, make sure you hit the like button on this, subscribe, bell notification. Check out my free success hypnosis. It's right there down below, jakeshypnosis.com. And I have some other awesome Neville Goddard techniques in videos as well. I'll link them. And if you want to see more Neville Goddard, be sure to let me know in the comments. I love Neville.